I'm not going to really say anything. I'm just going to introduce and tell you who she is. And her parents are Mrs. Mark Thornton. And I'm going to turn it over to let's see. Maybe go back there and get that podium. I got busy talking to Star and bring it up here. Yes, sir. Start with the music.
is about people helping dogs and dogs helping people. So if you don't like dogs, you should like birds, you like people. If you don't like people, you should like birds, you like dogs. And if you don't like people or dogs, then you might not like us birds. That's my niece. And this picture is basically on here to show you that juvenile diabetes affects children of all ages. Haley was diagnosed with diabetes when she was 16 months old. The diagnosis is very traumatic. It causes weight loss, severe vomiting, is unexpected, and it causes several days in ICU. Diabetes is a lifelong disease. As of today, there is no cure. It affects us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We can't just say, it's Christmas, so I'm not going to take any shots, and I'm not going to prick my finger, and I'm going to eat whatever I want to. It doesn't work like that. We might look healthy, and you might never know that we're diabetic, but a day is difficult. We have approximately 3,000 shots each year, and approximately 3,650 finger sticks each year of our lives. A diabetic patient has to check their blood sugar when they wake up, before they eat, after they eat, and when they go to sleep. So obviously that's a lot of finger pricks. You prick your finger so that a small drop of blood will come up, and you put it in the meter, and it should give you a number. Yeah. Okay, these are just some key facts. There's no way to prevent diabetes, and there's no way to know what caused it. It's the sixth leading cause of death in the U.S. And it's kind of sad because people don't really know much about it. And it's the sixth leading cause of death, and it affects children's lives every day. 40% of children with type 1 diabetes will require a kidney transplant in their lifetime. And 60% will suffer nerve damage. And again, there's no cure. Juvenile diabetes is also called insulin diabetes. And I know you guys are saying, I thought this story was about a dog. But it is. But in order for me to tell you what my dog will help me with, I have to tell you what I need help with. So anyways, unlike type 2 diabetes, there's no way to prevent it. Unlike type 2 diabetes, type 1 diabetes strikes children. Unlike type 2 diabetes, oral medication is not an option. We get our insulin from shots or an insulin pump. Unlike type 2 diabetes, type 1 diabetes cannot be controlled by diet and exercise. This type 1 diabetes can be managed, but it can never be controlled. You can never feel in control. Diabetes is an autoimmune disease, which means my body destroyed its own cells, which causes my pancreas to no longer produce insulin. So we have to get insulin from an outer source, which has to be shots or an insulin pump. Usually the pancreas should produce insulin, but a type 1 diabetic is not an autoimmune disease, and it destroys the pancreas. The only really way I've ever heard insulin described a little bit clearly is described using it as a key. Each of our cells needs sugar for energy. And if we can just imagine that our cells have a door and our doors are locked, then we can imagine that insulin is the key for that door. If we need sugar in those cells, and if we have insulin to open up that door of our cells, then the sugar can go in. If we have no insulin, then the sugar is trapped out of the cell and into the bloodstream, which causes the bloodstream to become very thick, and the cell is starving. When that happens, you say your blood sugar is high. And like I said already, insulin for a type 1 diabetic must be delivered by shots or an insulin pump. If you're type 1 diabetic and you take insulin with shots, there's two different kinds of insulin that you have to take. There's long-acting insulin and there's short-acting insulin. A type 1 patient must take long-acting insulin once every day at the same time every day to keep their blood sugar steady all through the day. But short-acting insulin we must take every time our blood sugar is too high and every time we ever eat. So obviously that's a lot of shots. And I could ask you to raise your hand if you knew a child who liked to take shots. And I could ask you to raise your hand if I knew a child who liked to take 6 to 8 shots a day. And I could ask you if you knew a child who wanted to give themselves 6 or 8 shots a day, but I think it would be pointless. But I do not take shots. I have an insulin pump. My insulin pump delivers me just a little bit of insulin every 3 minutes. My insulin pump is very similar to an IV, if you've ever had an IV dripping things into you. My pump site has to be changed every 3 days. And if you've ever had an IV inserted into you, then you probably know how it feels to have a pump inserted into you. But my pump only does what I tell it to do. It doesn't know when my blood sugar is high, so the only way that I can know that my blood sugar is high so that I can give myself insulin so that it'll be safe, I have to test it. I prick my finger, get the blood, and put it in the meter, and it will give me a number. My target blood sugar is 90 to 110. My blood sugar should be around 100 all the time, but that doesn't happen. If it's over 110, we call it a high, and if it's under 90, we call it a low. There's basically 2 consequences for highs and lows. An immediate consequence and danger in the future. Immediate consequences, comas, seizures, and it doesn't feel good. Even if you don't have a coma or a seizure, it's not comfortable. But long-term damage can be blindness, nerve damage, kidney transplants, losing limbs, and so on. I have experienced hypoglycemic unawareness, which means my body cannot tell me when I am low, when it is dangerous for seizures and stuff, and it's very scary. That's where the dogs come in. The dogs can help, and having to cause trains dogs to detect and alert a patient to changes in blood sugar levels that can be dangerous and cause seizures. Next slide. If you just imagine me taking my service dog to a grocery store, I walk in, and my dog probably smells the bread and the meat and all these other foods, and you probably can smell the dog food on the dog food aisle. Heaven Paws has trained these dogs to ignore all those smells and focus all of its senses on me so that it can alert me before I can have a seizure. But Heaven Paws has also found a very innovative way to help their community while helping the dogs, while helping diabetic patients. They have partnered with several shelters, and every time a shelter gets a dog that is pregnant, Heaven Paws takes those dogs and trains the dogs to be service dogs. When the puppies are weaned, the mom is placed in a home and is trained to be a nursing home dog or a children's dog. 80% of the puppies they get this way work as service dogs, but the 20% that do not work out as service dogs are still very highly trained and they're very smart dogs. and so they are also placed in homes. The dogs there, they start training at 1 day old. But at 8 weeks old, they start their public training in public places. So that's a dog that's 8 weeks old. I just said that. So, like I said, trained dogs are placed as patients apply and accept into the Heaven Sent Paws program. When I get my dog, it'll start working the second I get it, and it won't have breaks. They are very smart dogs. I've been accepted into the February 3rd class, and I'm so excited, and I've raised most of my money now. And so I'm getting so excited, and now the big part is waiting. And that's the word I don't really like sometimes. That's Ego, and this is one of the dogs that Heaven Sent Paws rescued. And that's my favorite one. And that's my dog home. Okay, that's all I have. So, anybody have any questions?
If I remember correctly, you had to raise $6,000 on your...
$6,000 on my own, and then Heaven Sent Paws raises the rest.
We actually worked with Heaven Sent Paws. I mean, we're not buying a dog. We just help them raise money to help raise. It costs about $25,000 to $30,000 to train and place a dog, and we just work with them to raise the money. And our goal is $6,000.
How close are you? You said you weren't quite there, right?
I'm about I have 1/6 of the way to go. So I still need some more, but I'm most of the way there. That it's really exciting.
And Haley, whose picture you saw up front, our granddaughter, her niece, is going to the July class. So she's also working with Heaven Sent Paws to raise the money. Her granddaughter.
Can I ask a question, Eddie? Of course. Will your dog, for lack of a better term, hit on anyone but you?
No, ma'am. My dog, from the day I get it, is trained to stay by me and smell only me, and it ignores every other smell it has, and it won't alert for Haley or anything else.
Part of the training that they say is very difficult. We haven't been there yet, but we've talked to people who have been trained with these dogs and now have them at home, and they say that one of the most difficult things is when you take the dog home, the first 3 months, the first 90 days, nobody else should interact with that dog. Like, in our home we have a number of children, and for the first 90 days, our children, other than Abby, will not speak to or pet the dog, because there has to be a unique bonding between the dog, the service dog, and Abby, so that it knows that it is her link to life.
It's very important that my dog knows it's my dog. And after, I think, the 90 days, then I can let people pet it. And that's going to be really hard. Some people know you can't pet it. But after the 90 days, after it's bonded with me only, then other people will begin to be able to interact with it.
Can you, or would you let me tell somebody some stories about how these dogs actually work?
After that, lady.
I read the story on Heaven Sent Paws, and it said something about, of course, you have to take it everywhere you go, in grocery stores and everywhere,
Yes, ma'am.
and that other people really should be told to ignore it and not pet it, because it's a service dog, not a pet.
It's working.
Is that right?
It is, and most importantly for the first 90 days, so that it learns to, no matter what's going on around it, it's my dog, and it has to be smelling me all the time.
Would you have a problem going in different places for the dog?
It's very possible, because my disability isn't very visible. You can look at me and you never know I have diabetes. And service dogs are allowed to be taken anywhere. But the only thing is if somebody thinks that I don't need a service dog. And I do, but it's not visible.
And he does wear a vest that says he's on a vest that says he's a working dog.
Don't you also carry a collar too, so you all
Yes,
smile,
ma'am.
so you can
So-
get on airplanes and
Yes, and so I should be able to take it everywhere, but I have heard stories that people give him a hard time. But I will have proof and stuff, so.
What about when you're sleeping, Danny?
My dog sleeps beside me, and that's the most important part to me is that it's with me while I'm sleeping, because that's when I'm scared.
Well, I mean, if he's, I guess I'm asking maybe a dumb question, but if he's asleep, you can't help him.
He will alert.
He does, and I don't
Really? Even
know.
when he's asleep?
Even
And
when he's asleep.
that's the most dangerous time, because she's not conscious. And so the dog will wake her up, or if he can't, he will come and get us and wake us up.
I've got to say this, but I've read stories where type 1 patients with a service dog have been waken up without a pillow, without a blanket, and with no dog pants on. And the dog is still barking.
do anything to get
Yeah,
Well,
they'll,
that's amazing that if that dog will wake up.
It's working even in its sleep. And that's important for a type 1 diabetic because what happens and what we've experienced with Abby is as she's sleeping, her blood sugar begins to trend downward, but she's asleep and she doesn't know. And the only, what she is awakened to is a huge seizure. And without, someone who has a seizure disorder, those seizures will work their way through the seizure most of the time. But for a diabetic patient, without an outside source of sugar acting on them very quickly, it is a serious consequence, and it's very frightening. And it can cause a child to experience something like that to be scared to ever go to sleep. And that's the main, that'll be the best benefit for us as parents is, I get up every hour and go check Abby, and it will be nice to know that there is someone else, someone else watching over Abby as she's sleeping.
Abby, I believe your mother told us that you experienced one of these late night seizures and that you made it halfway down the hallway or something.
well, I sleep in the basement, so I made it up the stairs, and I don't know how I got where I was, but
She said that's what started her looking for.
we were looking for a continuous glucose monitor, but they're just not there yet, and the insurance won't approve them, and somehow we met a guy with a diabetic A dog, so.
Will you be able to wear perfumes and things like that? That
I believe
everybody
so.
wants to wear?
I believe so. I think that the dog is trained to avoid every other smell except for me.
I had a client named Karen. She had brain tumor, and before she would have a seizure, we'd start taking at her glasses. And that's when we knew to start getting ice packs ready.
I've heard,
And she would wear perfume, and everybody else would be around. So this dog, specifically to her body chemistry, and it clicks, that dog's up and alert.
I'm curious as to the breed. Is this just large dogs, like blind dogs, or can they be small dogs, medium-sized dogs?
I think it's really with just large dogs. I've seen several different breeds, and I've seen mutts. In fact, Ego, the dog we showed you that I really like, it's a mutt, and yeah, there it is. But it's mostly bigger dogs.
So they're the breeds, just like the blind dogs.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
But you're not, you might have a chance of getting that guy?
I might, but I try not to think about it just in case I don't.
So we need to pray that you're going to get Ego, right?
Either Ego or a German Shepherd.
They do, just looking at the pictures on the website, they seem to have a mixture of shepherds, a few retrievers, some labs, and then some mixed breeds. But they're very excited about their success in redeeming puppies that would have been put down. The mom comes in pregnant most of the time. That's what the shelter is looking at because of overpopulation of unwanted pets. And so that is what is so exciting for people like us that are looking for a way to deal with the pet population of unwanted pets is somebody is being able to put those pets to use, and that is awesome. one of the parents in the class that's just graduated went home, been home a couple of weeks, and her little boy was sitting at the table doing his homework. And she thought this was a good time to go give the dog a bath. And she took it out onto the patio, through the sliding glass door, put it in a tub, and started bathing it. And it began to act up. It was wanting to get out of the water, it was pulling at her, it was tugging, and she was getting frustrated. She thought, this dog has been trained, it ought to at least submit to being bathed. And eventually, after just a few minutes, the dog grabbed her by the ponytail and pulled her to the sliding glass door, because she saw her son passing out at the table because his blood sugar had gone low in that short time that she got outside. This happens to type 1 diabetics so quickly. And that dog alerted through the sliding glass door outside when the little boy was inside and did whatever it took to get that mom's attention. It's amazing.
Where are they training the dogs?
It's in Missouri.
What part of Missouri?
Jefferson City, I think.
Well, actually, that's where we will go. You can tell about that.
Oh, okay. And so in February, that's when my classes, me and my mom, will go to Missouri for 3 weeks. The reason my mom is, well, not that I would go without her, but you're supposed to bring 2 people, the diabetic patient and someone else that the dog can alert. If I don't respond, then you go to my mom, just like the story she just told. So we will spend 3 weeks in Missouri being trained how to handle our dog in public places and how to respond to a alert and just everything we need to know about the dog.
How's that one had to get married?
I hope my husband likes dogs.
Be a prerequisite.
Keep the dog out of him.
That's a good question. I would imagine that if I don't respond, the dog will go to anyone, but I'm not sure.
How old are you?
I'm 14.
How do they go about training this dog? I got a
That's
reason for asking.
I'm not really sure. We have asked, and they just tell us it's very similar to training a seeing eye dog or drug smelling dog. But I also think that after I've been there for 3 weeks and have trained with them, that I probably won't be able to tell what I know. But I'm not sure how it works.
They do use positive reinforcement. Yeah.
I asked for a reason. I got a strange dog, haven't I? I'm a diabetic, but it's a type 2.
Yes,
And
sir.
I've only been like 8 years with this. That dog sometimes will wake me up at night. When he comes in, that old cold nose hits me. And he's not satisfied until I get up. So I was just wondering, I never trained him.
Well, I have several people. I've read their story, and they had a family dog that just picked it up. And I mean, I've heard of that from several different
Animal
places.
Miracles and Animal Planet, a lot of animals have alerted to cancers.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
It's amazing what they'll do when they're out.
Uh-huh. Yes, ma'am.
Well, after we had, and not only was this very interesting to us, and it'll be interesting to anybody, especially the nice side, but we had intended to try to help you. What can we do? I know you still got a little more money to raise. Is that going to be a problem? Is there anything we can do to help y'all?
Well, I think you need to focus on your Humane Society building or whatever, because I'm almost there, and I just shared my story, and I hope you guys are interested, and I think you guys need to put all your resources into your building.
I appreciate that, and this is tremendously, I don't think interesting, but it's a heart-touching story, and we'll pray for it.
Thank you very much. That's.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, well, thank you again for inviting me to come.
can't help but share that. I got a second cousin who lives in Tupelo, and their house backs up to the Natchez Trace, and they got a very deep backyard, very deep. It goes back to those power lines that run across the Natchez Trace, and they got a son that's, type 1 diabetes, and it was around Christmas time, and the daddy thought that he had gone with the mother, and she'd gone with some more Christmas lights, and she thought he knew he was there. Anyway, they had a golden retriever, and that dog, he's doing some stuff, maybe hang some Christmas lights, and that dog's just pounding on that wooden gate, just pounding on that wooden gate, and he kept barking, So finally he goes back there because he's getting on his nerves. And I forgot how deep it is, but it's really deep, and they have a swing set in it. And that dog had drugged, the little kid went into a coma, and had dragged him all the way up there to the fence, and he was not going to quit until they came, and luckily they got to him in time. The dog saved his.
Was that dog a trained dog?
No, it was not a trained dog. Family dog. But he's got a special place in their lives. Not that they didn't already. Where's Kathy? You want to introduce the next part of the program?